From Ireland and Sweden to the US, we count 10 countries Germany could have invaded during World War II.
A neutral country made up of German, French and Italian sections, Hitler planned to split the country with his evil cohort Mussolini from Italy. As the war progressed and Germany's troubles grew, the invasion of Switzerland never came. The island of Great Britain was certainly on Hitler's hit list, and his Operation Sea Lion was planned to invade the land of tea and crumpets. But first the Germans needed to defeat the Royal Air Force, because air superiority was an absolute essential element of a successful invasion of the island. The Luftwaffe could not defeat the RAF, and the chance to invade and defeat the British went up in smoke as the fortunes of Germany disintegrated on the Eastern Front. A relatively small island in the Mediterranean Sea, only 122 square miles, about the size of a medium to large American city. Malta lies between Sicily and Tunisia, a wonderful blocking position from which to interdict supplies and troops being sent to North Africa from Italy or occupied France. From 1940 to 1942, the Germans and Italians staged over 3,000 bombing raids of the island and did their very best to prevent ships from reaching the beleaguered people there. Despite these mighty efforts, the people of Malta and the Allied garrison managed to resist these attacks and maintain their air and sea facilities, never crumbling to the point where the Germans could successfully invade. The very name of this place is synonymous with a fortified stronghold, and its position guarding the entrance and exit to the Mediterranean Sea at the southern tip of the Iberian Peninsula makes it militarily vital. Like Malta, Gibraltar survived many German and Italian attacks that could not defeat or neutralize the strategic position and its aircraft and naval artillery based there. Hitler would have dearly loved Spain to allow him to invade from the Spanish mainland, but dictator Francisco Franco desperately wanted to keep Spain out of World War II, after suffering such carnage in the Spanish Civil War just a few years earlier. Although Spain owed a great debt to Hitler's Germany for helping the fascists during the Spanish Civil War, Franco declared his country neutral, and neutral it stayed, although in spirit the Spanish were sympathetic to Germany. If Hitler had been able to convince Spain to ally with Germany, or if Germany could have seized port facilities on either the Atlantic or Mediterranean coasts of Spain, Germany would have enjoyed much greater flexibility in basing and resupplying its U-boats and conducting aerial patrols of sea lanes. The Irish were, and are still not so particularly enamoured of the English, and bitterly resented the occupation of Northern Ireland by the UK. Despite sympathetic feelings towards Germany, the Irish were unwilling to commit to total war against their long-term nemesis, England. Hitler considered invading Ireland or Northern Ireland with the help of the Irish Republican Army, but his plans never became viable because of his failure to defeat the RAF. Oddly enough, the United Kingdom also considered Operation Green an invasion of Ireland. Germany invaded and conquered the Scandinavian countries of Norway and Denmark, so why not Sweden? They could have and would have if they needed to, but Sweden was ill-prepared for war with Germany and instead acquiesced to all German demands, acting as a staunch trade partner and supplying tons of vital iron ore. If the Russians had invaded Sweden, it's likely that the Germans would have invaded as a preemptive measure to avoid losing vital resources. Despite being allied with Germany during World War I, Turkey was intent on staying neutral during World War II. Germany and the Allies both courted Turkey as a possible ally, and Germany came close to forcing Turkey to allow German troops to pass through Turkish territory on the way to Iraq. A German-Turkish non-aggression pact was reached, but when the same sort of pact was violated by Germany with the attack on the Soviet Union, a foray into Iraq became a pipe dream for Hitler. If Germany had a harder time conquering the Balkans, Turkey would have been invaded, or had its territory violated by passing German forces. Iceland is strategically positioned to intercept shipping from North America to Northern Europe, especially to Scandinavia and Russia. Both the Allies and the Germans lusted after the potential to base airplanes and ships at this strategic island, but Iceland remained neutral in spite of strong lobbying efforts on both sides. Britain had imposed trade restrictions on Iceland to prevent free trade with Germany, and on May 10, 1940, Operation Fork went into effect, the British invasion and occupation of Iceland preempting the Germans from doing so first. To illustrate how easy the conquest was, nobody was killed on either side, except for one British suicide en route. In response, the Germans drafted Operation Icarus, their own plan for invading Iceland. But in 1941, the United States sent Marines to Iceland to occupy the island and deny it to Germany. The US later added Army and Army Air Forces to the occupation, as well as naval facilities and garrison amounting to 30,000 Americans at one time. Hitler had the long-term goal of someday isolating the United States as the sole industrialized democracy left after Germany, Italy and Japan had carved up the rest of the world. Once the US was on its own, Germany would somehow find a way to invade and conquer the last bastion of freedom. Meanwhile, Hitler planned to attack the US in other ways, with agents dropped off by submarine, by long-range missiles possibly fired from ships, subs or aircraft, and perhaps even by nuclear bombs, poison gas or radiological dirty bombs. Hitler dreamed of his America bomber that could fly all the way to New York and Washington DC to bomb the eastern cities and return safe to Europe, but his engineers never achieved this goal. The US meanwhile worked on the B-36 bomber for the same role. Luckily, Adolf Hitler and his henchmen never came close to attacking the US mainland in any meaningful way, other than sporadic submarine raids.
Well, there's another episode down. Thank you so much for watching. I want to give a huge shout out to our friends over at History and Headlines for helping out with this one. There's a link to their website in the description box below. They write amazing articles about historical events. It's well worth a look. And that's it for me. I'll see you all next time.